My parents made me babysit my sister's 4 children while she partied. Then they demanded I had to. I was 26 when my parents started calling my apartment temporary. It wasn't an insult. Not in their mouths. It was a label they used when they wanted something from me. My apartment was a 1-bedroom above a quiet insurance office on the edge of town. The kind of place where you could hear the copier through the floor if you stood still long enough. I liked it because it was mine. I worked remote for a small logistics company. Spreadsheet-heavy work, deadlines that didn't care about family group chats. I kept my world simple on purpose. Steady income, no drama, enough savings to sleep at night. My sister, Talia, lived 10 minutes away, in a new build with gray siding, white trim, and a backyard she posted like a resort. She was 32 with 4 kids, Mariah 9, Cam 7, Eli 5, and Joe 3. Their father wasn't around in any consistent way. If you asked my parents, they said, "We don't speak badly about him." If you asked Talia, she said, "It's complicated." If you asked the kids, they didn't mention him. My parents lived even closer, in the same house I grew up in. My mother still kept the entryway spotless like a staged home tour, and my father still believed being a good man meant people shouldn't question him. Everything in their world ran on appearances. Polite smiles at church, coordinated outfits for family photos, well-timed posts on Facebook about blessings and togetherness. The babysitting started the way things usually did, with a compliment. "You're so good with them," my mother said the first time, tilting her head in that way that made it sound like she was noticing something sweet and rare. "And you work from home. You have flexibility." Flexibility was what people called my time when they didn't want to respect it. It was a Thursday in late April, and I'd driven to my parents' house after work to drop off a box of old family photos my mom said she wanted to scan. Talia was there, standing in the kitchen in a white blazer she'd never wear near children. Her hair was curled like she'd paid someone to do it, and she was applying lip gloss using the microwave door as a mirror. I noticed the kids immediately because of the noise. Mariah was trying to get Cam to stop flicking a rubber band at Eli's forehead. Eli was whining. Joe was dragging a stuffed giraffe across the floor by its neck. Talia didn't look at them. She looked at herself. "I'm late," she said, then glanced at me like I was a solution she didn't have to ask for. My mother was already smiling too widely. "Good thing you're here," she said, as if I'd been scheduled. "Just a couple hours. Talia has something important." Talia made a small, dismissive sound. "It's a birthday thing. Everyone's going. I can't show up late again." "Again!" My father came in from the garage with his hands still smelling like oil. He said, "You can help your sister. Family helps family."
I nodded once, because it wasn't worth turning the kitchen into a debate. I told myself it really was a couple hours and I could finish my laundry later.
I could answer emails on my phone, I could sit on the couch and keep kids alive. I'd done worse. Talia kissed the air near her kids' heads, grabbed her purse, and left. No, thank you. No instructions. No diaper bag check. No snacks laid out. Just the click of her heels and the front door shutting. 2 hours became 4. 4 became 6. At 9:30, Joe was asleep on the couch with her cheek pressed into the giraffe. Eli had fallen asleep mid-sentence. Mariah sat upright, forcing herself to stay awake because she wanted to prove she was mature. Cam watched cartoons with the volume too high, jumping at every sound from outside like his mother might finally return. I texted Talia at 8:12 p.m. "Hey, what time are you coming back?" No response. At 9:01 p.m., "Kids are getting tired. Can you give me an ETA?" No response. At 9:47 p.m., I texted my mom, sitting 10 feet away in her recliner, "Can you call her?" My mother didn't look up from her phone. "Don't stress her," she said. "She deserves one night." I stared at her for a beat. The words that tried to rise up were sharp and unnecessary. I swallowed them and focused on the kids instead, because they hadn't asked for any of this. At 10:38 p.m., Talia breezed in with a bright face and a faint smell of perfume and alcohol. She held her phone up like it was still recording. "Everyone say hi," she sang, panning across the room. Mariah waved, half asleep. Cam made a peace sign. Eli didn't move. Joe didn't even stir. "Look at my babies," Talia said, smiling into the camera. "My village holding it down." She finally put the phone away and glanced at me like she'd noticed I was still in the room. "Thanks," she said, "the way you'd thank a door for opening." My father chuckled. "See? Everyone survived." That was the first time I understood what this would become. Because nobody saw that night as a problem. They saw it as proof I could be used. The next time was a Saturday. My mother texted me at 11:06 a.m. "Can you come by?" "Just for a bit. Talia needs to run errands." I was in the middle of meal prep, chicken in a pan, rice steaming. I typed, "I'm busy today. What time?" My mother sent, "Now, they're already here." That sentence, "they're already here," was a strategy. It was meant to make me feel like my answer didn't matter because the situation was already arranged. I turned off the stove, packed the food into containers, and drove over. I told myself it was better than the kids being left with someone careless. I told myself I wasn't doing it for Talia or my parents. I was doing it because Mariah always remembered to say please and thank you, even when her mother didn't. Because Cam still believed adults kept promises. Because Eli got nervous when people raised their voices. Because Joe climbed into any lap offered and fell asleep like a trust exercise. When I got there, Talia was in the driveway taking selfies with her car. She wore a crop top and ripped jeans. My father was standing behind her with his arms crossed, watching me like I was late to a shift. "There you are," he said. "I said I was busy," I replied evenly. My mother stepped closer and lowered her voice in a way that meant she wanted it to sound private and kind. "Honey, don't make this difficult." She's overwhelmed. 4 kids. You don't understand that kind of pressure. I looked at Mariah, who was holding Joe's hand and trying to keep her from walking into the street. "I did understand pressure, just not the kind my parents respected." Talia walked over, barely looking at me. "I need like 3 hours," she said. "I'm meeting Bree and them for brunch, then Target. I'll be back." Brunch wasn't errands, but I didn't say that. Instead, I said, "Text me an exact time." She rolled her eyes. "Okay, Dad, she's doing the thing again." My father's face tightened. "Don't talk like that. You're acting like we're asking you to donate an organ." "It's babysitting." He said babysitting the way people say just when they're minimizing you on purpose. I nodded slowly, as if considering his words.
3 hours, I repeated.
3, Talia said, already turning away. That day, she was gone for 7 hours. At hour 4, I started documenting, not emotionally, practically. I opened my notes app and wrote, Sat, May 11th, asked for 3 hours. Started 11:40 a.m. Number update. Kids, all 4. At hour 5, I took a photo of the living room clock behind Cam's head while he ate a grilled cheese I made from my parents' pantry. The time was visible, 4:52 p.m., not because I wanted evidence for a fight, because something in me had gone quiet and precise. At hour 6, Mariah asked softly, "Is Mom coming back?" I said, "She will." I said it like a statement of fact because children shouldn't hear uncertainty from the adults who are supposed to be stable. At 6:38 p.m., Talia came back with shopping bags and an iced coffee. My mother stood up immediately, smiling like she'd been waiting for a celebrity. "There she is," my mother said. "Did you have fun?" Talia laughed. I needed it. My father looked at me satisfied, as if I'd completed a chore. See? Not so bad. Talia tossed her keys on the counter. "We should do this more. Like a schedule. It would help." Schedule. That was the word that sharpened everything. A schedule meant expectation. It meant obligation. It meant my time becoming a family resource they could allocate. I looked down at Joe, who was tugging on my sleeve with sticky hands. "Can you open this?" she asked, holding up a snack wrapper. I opened it and handed it back, then wiped her hands with a napkin. Talia was already talking over me. "Like Wednesdays and Saturdays." "That would be perfect. You're always home anyway." Always home. Always available. I felt my chest tighten slightly, but my face stayed neutral. My mother nodded eagerly. "That's reasonable," my father said. "That's what family does." No one asked if I wanted that. No one considered my job, my life, my boundaries. They were building a structure around me while I stood inside it. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't say, "I'm not your nanny." I didn't say, "You're not entitled to my time." I didn't say, "Your kids are not a punishment I have to carry because you want to party." I watched them, and I listened. Because the more confident people get, the more careless they become. And my family was getting very confident. That night, when I got back to my apartment, I sat at my small kitchen table, opened my laptop, and created a new folder. I named it simply Timeline. Inside it, I made a document with dates and notes. I added the photo of the clock. I took screenshots of my unanswered texts. I didn't feel angry while I did it. I felt clear. Then my phone buzzed. A message from my mother. "Starting next week, we need you to take them every Wednesday and Saturday."
Talia! Can't keep doing everything alone. We're counting on you.
I stared at the screen for a long moment, my thumb hovering. I didn't reply. I set the phone down, opened the document again, and typed, "Mon, May 13th. Mom, we need you to take them every Wednesday and Saturday." Then I added a new line beneath it, "No consent asked." I sat there in silence until the room felt still again, and then I made one more folder inside Timeline. I named it Receipts, because if they were going to demand I had to, they were going to do it on record first. I didn't respond to my mother's message for 3 days. Not out of defiance, out of discipline. Silence unsettles people who are used to access. I'd learned that early in my career. Pause long enough, and others start filling the gap with assumptions. My parents were no different. On Thursday morning, my father called. I let it ring. At lunch, my mother texted again. "Are you upset?" I didn't answer that either. On Friday afternoon, another message arrived. "We already told Talia you're helping. Please don't embarrass us by backing out." There it was. Not asking. Not checking. Declaring arrangements and placing the burden of disruption on me. I waited until Sunday evening to reply. One sentence. "I can't commit to a standing schedule." Nothing else. No explanation. And no apology. The typing bubble appeared immediately, then disappeared. Then appeared again. My mother finally sent, "We'll talk about it in person." That was her way of signaling escalation. The next Wednesday, I worked late on purpose. I muted my phone and focused on a quarterly report that needed to be perfect. At 6:14 p.m., I saw 5 missed calls and a string of messages stacked on my lock screen. From Talia. "Where are you? Where?" From my father. "This is unacceptable." From my mother. "The kids are crying. You said nothing. How could you do this to us?" I finished the report, sent it, shut my laptop. Then I drove to my parents' house. When I walked in, the house felt charged, like a room where someone had just slammed a door. The kids were in the living room, pizza boxes open, volume high on the TV, sticky fingers everywhere. Mariah looked relieved when she saw me. Cam didn't look up. Eli was sitting on the floor lining up toy cars. Joe ran over and wrapped herself around my leg. My parents were in the kitchen with Talia. All 3 turned toward me at once. My father spoke first. "Explain yourself." I took off my shoes and placed them neatly by the door. I hung my jacket. I didn't rush. "I told Mom I couldn't commit to a schedule," I said evenly. "That wasn't what we agreed on," Talia snapped. "I didn't agree to anything." My mother crossed her arms. "You knew what we meant." I nodded slightly, acknowledging her statement without conceding it. I was clear. My father's jaw tightened.
"You don't get to decide this unilaterally. These are your nieces and nephews."
"And that's why I've been here every time you asked," I said. "But I didn't agree to Wednesdays and Saturdays." Talia laughed sharply. "Wow. Must be nice to just opt out. Some of us don't get that luxury." "I didn't respond to the bait." My mother gestured toward the living room. "Look at them. This is what happens when you don't show up." Mariah was feeding Joe a slice of crust, trying to break it into manageable pieces. Cam was negotiating with Eli about whose turn it was with the controller. They weren't crying. They were adapting, I said.
"They're fine."
My father raised his voice. "That's not the point." "It is," I replied calmly. That shut him up for half a second. Enough for Talia to jump back in. "So what? You're just done helping? After everything I'm dealing with?" "I didn't say that." "Then what are you saying?" she demanded. I met her eyes. "I'm saying I won't be assigned." The word hung in the air. My mother scoffed.
Assigned! Listen to you!
This isn't a job. I didn't correct her. I just reached into my bag and pulled out my phone. I've helped 12 times in the last 6 weeks, I said.
Unplanned, unpaid.
Longer than agreed.
Talia's eyes flipped to the phone.
Are you keeping score now? No, I said. I'm keeping track. My father leaned back against the counter. This is petty. I don't think so, my mother's voice sharpened. So what, you're punishing us? I shook my head. I'm setting a boundary, Talia laughed again, louder. You don't get to set boundaries when kids are involved. I looked at her, really looked at her. The perfect makeup, the curated exhaustion, the assumption that chaos entitled her to control. I do, I said, and I am. This is a classified analogy. Silence followed. Not resolution, just recalibration. I could see it happening in real time. They weren't hearing me as a person. They were reassessing me as an obstacle. My mother broke the silence. We'll figure something out, she said tightly. I nodded. That's probably best. I stayed another hour. Not because I was obligated, but because the kids needed consistency, and I could provide that without surrendering myself. I helped with homework. I brushed Joe's hair. I packed leftovers into containers and labeled them with dates. I did it all quietly. When I left, my mother hugged me stiffly. We just want what's best for everyone, she said. I know, I replied. That night, my phone stayed quiet for 2 days. Then the pattern shifted. Instead of asking me directly, they started creating emergencies. Friday morning, my mother texted, Talia's car won't start. Can you come by and watch the kids for an hour? I replied, I can't today. 10 minutes later, it's already happening. She's stranded. I waited, then wrote, I can't. An hour later, Talia posted a story from a cafe across town. New nails. New drink. Caption. When life forces you to slow down. I took a screenshot. Saturday afternoon, my father called. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. We're at the ER with your aunt. It's nothing serious, but Talia had to step out. The kids need you. I called my aunt directly. She answered on the second ring. I'm fine, she said. Why? I said. No reason. I saved the voicemail. Sunday evening, my mother sent a long message about family values, sacrifice, and how everyone sees what's happening. I didn't respond. I added it to the folder. The more I declined, the more dramatic the requests became.
The more dramatic they became, the more careless the details got. Talia forgot who she told what.
She posted pictures while claiming she was overwhelmed. She complained publicly about having no support while tagging locations that contradicted her stories. I didn't confront her. I documented dates, times, screenshots, voicemails. Contradictions! I noticed patterns, too. Every time my parents pressured me, Talia benefited financially or socially. She never missed a weekend trip, never skipped a party, never lost a brand collaboration she bragged about online. Her feed was full of captions about single mom strength and doing it all. Meanwhile, my mother was telling extended family I'd changed and wasn't around much anymore. Then one afternoon, something landed in my inbox that shifted everything. An email from my parents' shared account, subject line, childcare reimbursement draft. I opened it slowly. Attached was a spreadsheet. It listed dates, hours, children, and a total at the bottom, $2,450, labeled paid by grandparents. I scrolled back up. The dates matched the days I babysat. The hours were inflated, and the pay rate was higher than anything they'd ever mentioned to me. My name wasn't on the document, but the service was. I sat back in my chair and stared at the screen, because suddenly, the picture sharpened.
They weren't just using my time, they were monetizing it.
Quietly, carelessly. I downloaded the file, saved the email headers, and checked the metadata. Then I opened my receipts folder and added a new subfolder. I named it Money, and for the first time since this started, I didn't feel patient. I felt precise, because if they were charging for me without my consent, that meant the next conversation wouldn't be about babysitting anymore, it would be about fraud, and they had no idea how close they were to exposing themselves. Once I saw the spreadsheet, I stopped declining requests entirely. That was the shift they didn't notice. Instead of saying no, I said nothing, or I said yes in a way that gave me space to watch. I wasn't helping anymore. I was observing a system in motion. The next Wednesday, my mother texted at 9:02 a.m. "Can you take the kids tonight? Talia has an opportunity she can't miss." I replied at 9:11. "I can be there from 5:30 to 8:30. 3 hours? You're good with money." Written. Time stamped. My mother responded with a thumbs up emoji. At 8:41 p.m., Talia still hadn't returned. I didn't text her. I didn't call. I took a photo of the kitchen clock again. 8:41. Then another at 9 o'clock. Then one at 9:22. At 9:34 p.m., my mother said, "She's running late." I nodded. Okay, I stayed until 10:02 p.m. Then I packed up my things, tucked the kids in, wrote a note for Mariah explaining where snacks were, and left. I texted my mother from the driveway. I left at 10:02. She didn't respond. The next morning, I received another email. Subject line, "Updated totals another spreadsheet. The same dates, the same hours, except now the hours matched my availability message. But the total had increased." I compared versions side by side. They'd added a late-night premium. My name still wasn't on it. Neither was Talia's, just care provided. I saved it. Over the next 2 weeks, I repeated the pattern. I gave exact windows. I left exactly when I said I would. I documented arrivals and departures with photos, texts, and witnesses. Neighbors, my parents' friends, even the church babysitter coordinator who happened to stop by one afternoon. And every time a new spreadsheet appeared, the numbers kept growing. My parents' confidence grew with them. My mother started referring to the arrangement when talking to relatives. My father joked at a barbecue that I was on the payroll now, then laughed when people looked confused. Talia leaned into it the hardest. She started scheduling her life around my availability without checking. She told people loudly that she had help locked in. She stopped pretending she was overwhelmed and started complaining that she deserved balance. She also got sloppy. One Friday night, she posted a story from a rooftop bar in the city. Neon lights, music thumping, caption, "Finally breathing." An hour later, my mother texted the family group chat. "Please keep Talia in your prayers tonight. She's had a rough day." I screenshotted both. Another time, Talia complained on Facebook about the cost of childcare, saying, "Even with family, it adds up." A cousin commented, "At least you don't have to pay a sitter." Talia replied with a winking emoji. I saved that too. The key moment came the following Sunday. My parents hosted a planning dinner. They called it a family meeting, which usually meant decisions had already been made and were about to be announced with dessert. Everyone was there. Aunts, uncles, cousins, the kids running through the house like loose wires. My parents had put out their best dishes. My mother wore the necklace she saved for holidays. I sat at the far end of the table and listened. My father cleared his throat. "We wanted to talk about logistics going forward," he said, to avoid confusion. My mother nodded. "We've been covering some expenses for Talia to help her stay afloat." Talia looked down modestly, like she didn't want attention she absolutely wanted. My mother continued. Childcare being the biggest, several heads turned toward me. I didn't react. My father gestured vaguely. "You're good with money. We're happy to help, but it's important everyone understands the numbers." He reached for a folder on the sideboard. I felt something click into place. Inside that folder were printed spreadsheets. I recognized the formatting. My mother slid copies around the table. "This is just for transparency," she said, "so no one feels taken advantage of."
I accepted the paper calmly.
At the top, in bold, was a title. Monthly child care expenses, May, June, underneath line by line, dates, hours, rates, total, $3,180. Paid? Yes. My aunt frowned. "Who's the sitter?" she asked. My mother smiled. "Oh, you know, family." Eyes shifted to me again. My cousin said, "Wait, you're paying her?" My father laughed. No, we're paying for her." That sentence did a lot of work. I folded the paper and placed it on the table. Interesting. My mother's smile faltered slightly. What? I didn't realize you were charging for my time, I said, still calm. The table went quiet. Talia's head snapped up. What are you talking about? My father waved his hand. Don't be dramatic. I looked at him. I've never been paid. I never agreed to a rate, and I never consented to being listed as a service. My mother's voice tightened. It's just accounting. For what? I asked. No one answered immediately, and Uncle cleared his throat. Are you saying this isn't accurate? I'm saying it's incomplete, I replied, and misleading. Talia leaned forward. You're seriously doing this right now? I met her eyes. I'm listening. My mother reached for her water glass. We can discuss this privately. I shook my head once. I think this is the right setting. That was when I saw it. You're good with money. A flicker of panic. Not in my parents. In Talia. She glanced at the folder, at the table, at the faces around her. She realized something I'd known for weeks. This wasn't just family drama, this was documentation, and they'd brought it into a room full of witnesses. I didn't say anything else that night. I let them talk. My parents stumbled through explanations. Talia interrupted. Stories shifted. Numbers blurred. My aunt asked more questions. My cousin took photos of the papers just to understand better. I smiled politely. Ate dessert, helped clear plates. When I left, my mother hugged me too tightly. We'll sort this out, she whispered. I nodded. I'm sure we will. The next morning, I emailed my parents. Subject: clarification 3 sentences. I need a full accounting of any funds exchanged in relation to my childcare services. This includes who paid, who received, and under what agreement. Please respond in writing. I sent it and archived the thread, because the dinner wasn't the exposure. It was the setup, and they just handed me the stage. All that was left was to choose the moment and make sure everyone was watching. They didn't respond to my email for 4 days. That silence told me everything I needed to know. On the 5th day, my mother replied, not with answers, but with a request. Let's not put things in writing. This has gotten out of hand. Come over tonight so we can talk like a family. I read it once. Then again. Then I forwarded the email to a new address I'd created the week before. One that existed solely for this situation. I replied with one line. I'll be at the community center on Sunday for the family brunch. The brunch had been my mother's idea months earlier. A summer kickoff. Church families invited. Extended relatives. Kids running around the lawn. Photos posted before the food even cooled. She'd asked me to come weeks ago, long before the spreadsheets, long before the lies had started to tangle. She responded immediately. Why there? I waited 10 minutes before answering. Because everyone will already be there. That's Sunday. Arrived warm and clear, the kind of day my parents liked because it photographed well. I arrived early, helped set up tables, smiled at familiar faces. I wore neutral colors, nothing sharp, nothing confrontational. Talia arrived late, sunglasses on, phone already in her hand. The kids trailed behind her, restless. She didn't look at me. My parents moved through the crowd like hosts at a fundraiser. My mother laughed too loudly. My father shook hands, his smile fixed. At noon, just as people were settling with plates, my mother tapped a spoon against a glass. Before we eat, she said, we just want to thank everyone for coming. Family means so much to us. A few nods. Polite applause. She continued. And since we're all together, we wanted to clear up a small misunderstanding that's been circulating. Her eyes flicked to me. I stood up slowly. I can help with that, I said. The room quieted. Not dramatically, but enough. My mother froze for half a second. Then she smiled. Sweetheart, we talked about... I know, I said gently. That's why I brought copies. I reached into my bag and placed a folder on the nearest table. Then another. Then another. I didn't hand them out. I set them down where people could see the tabs. Timeline. Receipts? Money! I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I've been babysitting my sister's children since April, I said. I was never paid. I never agreed to a schedule, and I never consented to my time being charged to anyone. A murmur moved through the room. My father stepped forward. This is inappropriate. I nodded. That's why I kept it factual. I opened the first folder. These are dates and times I was asked to babysit, I said. These are screenshots of messages requesting help. These are photos taken when I arrived and when I left. These are unanswered texts when I asked for return times. I opened the second. These are social media posts made during those same hours. Locations tagged. Timestamps visible. A few people leaned closer. Then the third folder. These are spreadsheets sent from my parents' email account, I said. They list childcare services provided on those same dates. They include rates I never agreed to and totals marked as paid. My mother's face had gone pale. My aunt spoke first. Paid by who? I looked at my parents, then back at my aunt. That's what I asked in writing. Talia laughed, sharp and brittle. This is insane. You're acting like we committed a crime. I'm not acting, I said. I'm asking for clarity. My cousin flipped through one of the folders. These totals, where did the money go? My father said, We were helping Talia. With money attributed to my labor, I replied, without my consent. Someone near the back said, That's not okay. Another voice, Why wouldn't you just pay her? My mother tried to recover.
This was never about money. I looked at her.
Then it should be easy to explain. Silence. A man from our church, someone who volunteered with family services, cleared his throat. If funds were exchanged under false representation, that's a problem. I'm not making an accusation, I said. I'm presenting records. Talia's voice rose. You're doing this to humiliate me. I shook my head. I waited months. I asked privately. I documented quietly. My father snapped. Enough! I turned to him. You told me this was just babysitting. I paused. Babysitting doesn't come with invoices.
That did it. People stopped eating.
Conversations broke into smaller, sharper ones. Phones came out, not pointed at me, but at the papers. At each other, my mother whispered. Please stop. I closed the folder. I am. I picked up my bag. I won't be babysitting anymore, I said calmly. And I won't be associated with any financial arrangements that involve my name or time. I looked at Talia, not with anger, but with finality. I hope you find childcare that works for you, I said, that you pay. Then I looked at my parents. And I hope you understand why I needed this documented. I walked out. I didn't check my phone until that evening. Next time I set out on the stage until I brought back into my surface. There were messages, missed calls, apologies that weren't really apologies, explanations that contradicted each other. I didn't respond. What happened next unfolded without me. Relatives asked questions. The church volunteer followed up. My parents' story changed depending on who they spoke to. The spreadsheets made their way around. Talia deleted posts, then went quiet online altogether. 2 weeks later, my father emailed me, subject, resolution. They had returned the money, all of it, to the people they'd charged. They said it was a misunderstanding, that they hadn't meant harm. That family should move on, I replied once. Thank you for confirming in writing. Nothing more. I set boundaries after that, not dramatically, but firmly. Visits by invitation only. No childcare. No emergencies. Conversation stayed surface level. The kids adjusted. They always do. I still see them occasionally. In public places. Short visits. Clear start and end times. They hug me when they see me. Mariah asks about my work. Cam shows me new tricks. Eli tells me facts he's memorized. Joe still reaches for my hand. Talia doesn't ask for help anymore. My parents don't call my apartment temporary. It's just my home now. Quiet.
Ordered. Mine.
I didn't win anything. I didn't need to. I kept my self-respect, and for the first time in a long time, that was enough.